The fire crackled softly as Ethan turned the skewer over the flames. The smell of roasted meat mixed with the damp scent of the jungle. Above, the canopy swayed gently, letting streams of golden light fall through the leaves. He had been alone. For weeks, living off what he could hunt. The wilderness was quiet, almost too quiet, and he had grown used to the stillness that came after every long day. He sat on a smooth rock beside the fire, his bow resting against his pack. The sound of distant waterfalls was constant, a background song to his survival. His mind drifted between thoughts of home and the unending green around him. There was no one to talk to, no one to hear his voice but the birds and the wind. That was why what happened next struck him harder than anything he had felt in a long time. "Can I join you?" The voice was clear and soft, coming from behind him. Ethan froze, his hand gripping the skewer so tightly the meat almost tore. He had not heard anyone approach. No crunch of leaves, no snap of branches. Slowly, he turned his head, and what he saw stole the air from his lungs. She was standing a few steps away, framed by the flicker of the fire and the glow of the waterfalls. Her skin shimmered in shades of green, catching the light like living jade. Her eyes were large, glowing, faintly in colors he had never seen in any human. Long strands of rainbow hair flowed over her shoulders, moving gently with the breeze. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, and it was clear she was not from Earth. Ethan's first thought was that he should reach for his bow. His second was that he didn't want to. There was no weapon in her hands, no threat in her posture. She stood with one foot slightly forward, as if ready to step back if he made the wrong move. Her voice had carried no fear, only curiosity. And in that moment, curiosity was what filled his own mind. "You're not from here," he said slowly, his voice almost drowned by the sound of rushing water. She tilted her head, studying him like he was a strange animal. "Neither are you," she replied with a faint smile. The words were true enough. This jungle was not his home either. Ethan gestured to the fire, unsure if she would understand, but she stepped closer without hesitation. As she approached, he noticed more details. Her ears were long and curved, delicate yet sharp in shape. The faint glow in her eyes brightened when she looked at the cooking meat. Her clothes were simple, woven from plant fibers, and carried the scent of crushed leaves. She knelt near the fire, and the way the flames reflected on her skin made her seem even more unreal. For a moment, neither spoke, letting the crackle of fire and the scent of roasting food fill the air between them. Finally, she reached out a hand, not toward him, but toward the meat. "What is this?" she asked. "Dinner," Ethan replied, his lips curling into the smallest smile he had made in weeks. She seemed to weigh the word in her mind, then nodded slowly. "Then I would like to join you," she said again, her voice almost a whisper this time. Ethan realized that whatever she was, whatever world she had come from, she was here now, and she was asking to share his fire. Ethan shifted slightly, making space beside the fire. She moved with slow grace, lowering herself to sit on the smooth stone across from him. The flames painted her skin in warm shades, making her look both alien and familiar at once. He could see the faint rise and fall of her breathing, calm and steady, as if she was in no hurry to speak. He turned the skewer again, letting the juices drip into the fire with a hiss. "You hungry?" he asked, unsure if she would even know the word. She tilted her head, her glowing eyes catching the light. "Yes," she said after a pause, the sound almost like a melody. Ethan offered her a piece of meat on a small stick, and she accepted it without hesitation. She examined the meat closely, her fingers brushing its surface as if feeling for something. Then she took a small bite. Her expression shifted in surprise, and for a moment, Ethan thought she might spit it out. Instead, her lips curved into a smile. "It is good," she said softly. "Warm, strong." He wasn't sure what she meant by strong, but the way she spoke made him think it was a compliment. "Where are you from?" Ethan asked. The question seemed simple, but she hesitated. Her gaze moved past him, toward the darkness of the trees. "Far from here," she replied at last. "Beyond the falls. Beyond the sky." The way she said it made him believe she meant it literally. His mind worked to piece together the meaning, but she gave no further explanation. The night deepened around them, and the sounds of the jungle grew louder. Somewhere in the distance, an animal cried out. Ethan noticed the way her ears twitched at the noise, sharper and more sensitive than his own. She glanced toward the sound, then back at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You are alone," she said, not as a question but as a fact. He nodded. "Been alone for a while," he answered, his voice low. She looked at him for a long moment, then reached into a small pouch at her side. From it, she drew a smooth, glowing stone, pale blue in color. She set it gently on the ground between them. "For your fire," she said. Ethan frowned, unsure of its purpose. But when the light from the stone touched the flames, the fire flared. Brighter, sending warmth deeper into the night air. He stared at the stone, then at her, wondering just how many other strange things she carried. "Why are you here?" he asked after a while. This time she didn't look away. "I was looking for someone," she said. Her tone was steady, but something in her eyes hinted at urgency. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. "Someone like me?" he asked. She nodded once. "Yes, human." The word left her lips with strange weight, as if she had practiced saying it many times before finding him. Ethan's mind raced. If she had been searching for a human, that meant she knew of more than one, or at least believed there were more. He wondered if she was friend or enemy, savior or hunter. Yet in that moment, as the firelight danced between them and the jungle wrapped them in its shadows, he found himself leaning forward, wanting to hear more. "Why me?" he asked quietly. She met his gaze without flinching. "Because you are the only one left here," she said. Ethan stared at her across the fire, the crackling flames reflecting in her strange eyes. The words she had spoken kept repeating in his mind. "The only one left here." It was not something you said lightly in a place as wild and dangerous as this. He felt the muscles in his shoulders tighten, a quiet readiness building inside him. She leaned forward slightly, her hair catching the glow of the fire in brilliant strands of color. "There were more like you," she said, her voice low but steady. "Now they are gone." Ethan's grip on the skewer loosened as he listened. "Gone where?" he asked. She shook her head. "Taken, hunted. Some escaped, but none stayed." The way she spoke made it sound less like a warning and more like a truth carved into stone. He felt the urge to ask who had taken them, but a sudden sound in the trees made him pause. It was faint, like a branch moving against another, but it did not belong to the wind. His eyes shifted toward the darkness, scanning the shadows. She followed his gaze, her body tensing just enough for him to notice. "We are not alone," she whispered. Her voice carried no fear, only certainty. Ethan reached slowly for his bow, keeping his movements calm. She did not stop him. Instead, she placed her hand over the glowing stone she had given him earlier, dimming its light until the firelight was the only glow in the clearing. The jungle around them seemed to press closer, the sound of water from the falls becoming a distant hum. Ethan's heartbeat steadied, his senses sharpening with each breath. A rustle came again, this time from the left. Ethan lifted the bow, arrow ready, his eyes fixed on the place where the leaves moved. The figure that stepped into the firelight was unlike her, yet not entirely human either. Its skin was pale and rough, its eyes narrow and cold. It carried no weapon, but the way it stood made it clear it did not need one. She rose slowly to her feet, stepping between Ethan and the newcomer. "You should not be here," she said firmly, her tone carrying more authority than he had heard before. The figure tilted its head, looking at her and then at Ethan. "You found him," it said in a voice that was deep and harsh. Ethan's grip tightened on the bow. The figure's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer before shifting back to her. "The hunt is still on," it added, almost as if to remind her. Ethan's stomach turned at those words. The hunt. He looked at her, searching for some sign that this was not as dangerous as it sounded. But she met his eyes briefly, and he saw. No comfort there, only truth. "Leave," she told the figure. "This one is mine." The words were sharp and final, leaving no space for argument. For a moment, it seemed like the figure might challenge her, but then it stepped back into the shadows without another word. Silence returned to the clearing, though it felt heavier than before. Ethan lowered his bow, the tension in his arms slowly. Easing, she turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You see now," she said. "They know you are here. They will come again." He swallowed hard, realizing that whatever quiet life he had been living in this jungle was over. He was part of something much larger now, and there was no turning back. Ethan kept his bow close, even after the pale figure was gone. The jungle felt different now, heavier with the knowledge that others were watching. His fire no longer seemed like a simple comfort, but a light that could give away his position. The alien woman sat down again, her eyes fixed on the flames, though he could tell her thoughts were far away. "You saved me," Ethan said at last. His voice was quiet but carried the weight of what had just happened. She glanced at him briefly before looking back at the fire. "I claimed you," she corrected. "That is different." Her words were simple, but they held meaning he could not fully understand. He frowned, leaning slightly forward. "Claimed me for what?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she picked up the glowing stone again and rolled it between her fingers. Its light pulsed softly, as if alive. "If I had not, they would have taken you," she said finally. "Once taken, there is no return." The way she spoke made him think of a hunter talking about prey already caught. Ethan's jaw tightened. "And now?" he asked. "Now you stay close to me," she replied without hesitation. The fire popped, sending a spark into the air. Ethan stared at her, trying to read her expression. She seemed calm, but there was a quiet tension in the way her shoulders held. "Who are they?" he asked. She tilted her head slightly, her long ears catching the light. "They are the ones who hunt your kind," she said. "They believe you are dangerous." He almost laughed at the thought, but her steady gaze told him she was not joking. Dangerous. The word felt strange in his mind. He had spent weeks struggling just to survive, with no thought of being a threat to anyone. Yet if they saw him that way, it meant there was something more going on than he understood. "And you?" he asked. "Do you think I'm dangerous?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "Not yet," she said, her tone making it impossible to tell if it was a warning or a promise. A sudden rush of wind moved through the clearing, bending the flames toward the ground. Ethan glanced at the trees, but she didn't seem alarmed. Instead, she stood in motion for him to follow. "We cannot stay here," she said. "They will return with more." He hesitated only a moment before gathering his things. The thought of leaving the safety of his fire was not comforting, but staying felt worse. They moved through the jungle in silence, her steps light and sure even in the dark. Ethan struggled to keep up at first, but soon found her pace matched his exactly, as if she was guiding him without slowing herself. The sound of the waterfall faded behind them, replaced by the chorus of night creatures hidden in the shadows. The air grew cooler, and the ground beneath their feet became damp with moss. After what felt like hours, she led him into a narrow valley lit by glowing plants. The light was soft, casting strange patterns across the rocks. "Here," she said, stopping beside a cluster of large stones. "We will rest here for the night." Ethan set his pack down, still watching her carefully. She crouched beside a pool of clear water, cupping her hands to drink. "Tomorrow," she said, "I will tell you why they want you." and why I need you to live." Ethan woke to the sound of soft footsteps near the pool. The faint glow from the plants painted the rocks in shifting shades of blue and green. She was already awake, standing at the edge of the water with her back to him. Her head was slightly tilted, as if she was listening to something he could not hear. He pushed himself up slowly, his muscles stiff from the long walk. "You hear something?" he asked. She turned her head just enough for him to see her profile. "Only the forest," she said. "It speaks if you know how to listen." He glanced around, hearing only the chirps of unseen insects and the distant cry of a night bird. Whatever she was hearing, it was beyond him. She walked back toward the cluster of stones where he sat. "We must move again soon," she said. "The hunt will not stop until they have you or they are stopped." Her words carried the weight of certainty. Ethan rubbed a hand over his face. "Then maybe I should stop them," he said, half to himself. She studied him for a moment, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "You cannot." "Not yet," she replied. The thought of being hunted stirred something deep in him. He had spent his life surviving in difficult places, but this was different. This was not nature testing him. This was something intelligent and relentless. "You said you would tell me why they want me," he reminded her. She nodded and crouched down beside the fire pit they had built from stones. "Your kind has a gift," she said. "A gift that frightens them." Ethan frowned. "What kind of gift?" She leaned closer, her voice almost a whisper. "You can change things. Not just objects, not just land, but the way others think. When humans are near, they bring change without trying. It spreads like fire." He blinked, unsure if she was speaking in riddles. "That doesn't sound dangerous," he said. She shook her head. "To them, it is worse than any weapon." He sat back, trying to take in her words. If what she said was true, it meant his very presence was enough to make him a threat. "So they hunt us because we make things different?" he asked. "Because you cannot be controlled," she corrected. "And because you do not stop." Her tone carried both admiration and warning. "If they cannot control you, they will erase you," she added. Ethan's chest felt tight. He thought of the other humans she had spoken of, the ones who were gone. He wondered if they had known why they were being hunted, or if they had died, without ever learning the reason. "And you?" he asked quietly. "Why save me?" Her gaze softened. "Because I believe your gift is needed. There is more at stake than your life," she said. Before he could ask what she meant, a low rumble echoed through the valley. It was not thunder. The sound was steady, mechanical, and growing closer. She was on her feet in an instant, scanning the shadows beyond the glowing plants. "They are here," she said sharply. "We must go." Ethan grabbed his pack and bow without question, his heart pounding in time with the approaching sound. The rumble grew louder, vibrating through the stones beneath their feet. Ethan's eyes darted toward the valley entrance, but the glowing plants made it hard to see beyond the first row of rocks. She motioned for him to follow, her movements quick and precise. They slipped into a narrow path between two high walls of stone, the sound of the mechanical approach echoing behind them. Ethan's boots slid on loose gravel as they moved uphill. The path twisted sharply, and each turn hid the source of the sound but never lessened it. She moved ahead like she had walked this way many times before. He struggled to match her speed, his pack bouncing against his back with every step. The air was cooler here, but the tension in his chest made breathing harder. "Will they follow us up here?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice low. She nodded without looking back. "They will follow anywhere, they have no limits." Her words were clipped, as if she had no patience for wasted breath. The thought of an enemy that never stopped sent a chill down his spine. Still, he kept moving, matching her pace as best he could. The path opened into a ledge overlooking a wide stretch of jungle. From here, Ethan could see faint shapes moving in the distance, their outlines glowing faintly in the moonlight. They were too far to make out in detail, but he could tell they were not human. She pointed toward a dark line in the forest far below. "We must reach that river before sunrise," she said. Ethan studied the distance and knew it would take hours. "And if we don't?" he asked. She turned her gaze to him, her eyes glowing brighter in the dim light. "Then they will catch us," she replied. There was no threat in her tone, only certainty. He adjusted the strap on his bow and nodded, forcing himself to focus on the task rather than the fear creeping into his mind. They descended from the ledge through a steep trail that wound between tall cliffs. The walls on either side seemed to press inward, and Ethan felt the space growing tighter with each step. The sound of the pursuers faded for a moment, replaced by the quiet drip of water from the stone above. He knew the silence would not last, but he took what calm he could from it. Halfway down, she stopped and pressed her hand against the wall. A section of the stone shifted slightly, revealing a narrow opening. "This way," she said. Ethan hesitated, glancing into the dark space. "Where does it go?" She stepped inside without answering, and he followed, trusting that she knew more about this land than he ever could. The tunnel was barely wide enough for them to walk side by side. The air smelled of damp earth, and the sound of their footsteps echoed faintly. After several minutes, the space opened into a cavern lit by clusters of glowing crystals. The light painted her skin in shifting colors, making her look even more alien and otherworldly. "They will not find us here tonight," she said at last. Ethan lowered his pack to the cavern floor and sank onto a flat rock. The air was warmer here, the crystals casting a steady glow that softened the shadows. She remained standing, scanning the tunnel entrance as if expecting trouble even in this hidden place. Her hand rested lightly on the pouch at her side, where the glowing stone was kept. "You said they would not find us here tonight," Ethan said. "But tomorrow?" She turned her gaze to him, her expression calm but firm. "Tomorrow they will search again. And they will search harder." Her tone carried the weight of experience. It was clear this was not the first time she had evaded them. He wondered how many days and nights she had been running before she found him. He leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. "You said you need me alive for something bigger than my life," he said. "What is it?" She stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on his. "There is a place they cannot touch," she said. "A place where your kind once stood without fear." Her voice lowered. "If we reach it, you will not only survive, you will change what comes after." Ethan felt the weight of her words settle over him. "And where is this place?" he asked. She pointed toward the far side of the cavern where another tunnel disappeared into darkness. "Beyond that," she said, "it is far. Too far to walk in safety without help." He looked at her, trying to read her meaning. "Then we need help," he said. She nodded slowly, as if the idea was both obvious and dangerous. They shared a meal in silence, the sound of the fire they built in the cavern echoing off the stone walls. Ethan ate quickly, knowing rest would be short. She took smaller bites, her eyes still scanning the shadows. "You do not trust this place," he said. "I trust nothing that stands still too long," she replied. Stillness invites the hunt. After eating, Ethan stretched out on his bedroll, but his mind would not settle. He watched her from the corner of his eye as she walked to the edge of the glowing crystal field. She placed her hand on one of the larger formations, and the light beneath her touch brightened. It was a small change, but it made the whole cavern feel alive. He wondered if the crystals were part of her world in a way he could never understand. She returned to where he lay and crouched beside him. "Sleep now," she said. "I will keep watch." He hesitated, not wanting to close his eyes while danger still felt close. But her voice carried quiet certainty, and he found himself giving in. The warmth of the cavern and the steady glow of the crystals blurred his thoughts until sleep finally claimed him. When he woke, she was still awake, sitting cross-legged with her back to the wall. The pouch with the glowing stone rested in her lap. She looked at him and spoke before he could ask. "They are closer," she said. "Today we move. And if we are to survive, you must be ready for more than running." Ethan sat up, feeling the tension return to his muscles. He had no idea what she planned next, but he knew it would change everything. Ethan tightened the straps on his pack while she stood near the tunnel entrance. The crystals cast shifting patterns of light over her face, making her seem like she was both part of the cavern and separate from it. Her expression was unreadable, but her posture was set with purpose. She looked ready for whatever waited outside. They moved quickly through the dark tunnel, the air cool and damp against their skin. The faint glow from her stone guided their steps. Ethan kept his bow in hand, arrow notched, his senses sharp. Each sound in the distance made his grip tighten, but she never broke her steady pace. Her confidence was the only thing that kept him from slowing. The tunnel ended in a wide clearing hidden deep in the jungle. Morning light filtered down through layers of leaves, catching on pools of water that shimmered in shades of green and gold. For a moment, it was almost peaceful. Then she raised her hand, signaling him to stop. Her ears tilted toward the left, catching something he could not hear. "They are here," she said. Ethan scanned the trees, his eyes searching for movement. A faint shimmer passed between two trunks, then another. The shapes were closing in from both sides. "We cannot outrun them here," he said. She shook her head. "We do not run." She stepped forward, her voice carrying a strange calm. "Today, they learn why your kind cannot be taken." The pursuers emerged from the shadows, their pale forms stark against the jungle colors. There were more than Ethan had expected, each moving with deliberate precision. He could see their eyes fixed on him, cold and calculating. She stepped between him and them, holding the glowing stone high. Its light surged, washing over the clearing. In a wave of color, the figures hesitated, their movements faltering. Ethan felt a strange energy push through the air, not like heat or cold, but something deeper. "What's happening?" he asked. She glanced back at him, her eyes bright. "Your gift," she said. "It works when it must." He realized she was not just protecting him. She was showing him what he could do. He stepped forward, bow still in hand, but now his focus shifted. The energy moved with him, spreading outward. The pale figures began to retreat, their steps unsteady, as if the ground itself had turned against them. One stumbled, another turned away entirely. It was not his arrows that drove them back, but the force of something he did not yet understand. When the last of them vanished into the trees, the clearing felt still again. Ethan lowered his bow, breathing hard. She approached and placed the glowing stone in his hand. "You see now," she said. "You are not hunted because you are weak. You are hunted because you are the one thing they cannot kill in the way they wish." Her words settled in his mind with a weight that felt like truth. They left the clearing together, moving toward the hidden place she had promised. The jungle around them seemed different now, less like a cage and more like a path. Ethan knew the danger was not gone, but something had changed. He was no longer just surviving. He was walking toward something larger, with her at his side, and a purpose that was now his to carry.